The function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. Leaders of men.
All right, Alexander Cottle, welcome, brother. Thanks for being here.
Welcome, Nick. Pleasure to be here, my friend.
Nice to finally connect with you, mate.
I know it's long overdue.
Let's take it from the top. What does masculinity mean to you?
Masculinity to me is being grounded in my own emotions, watching the stories and the different parts of me play out and holding and loving all those parts. It's heart-centered leadership, it's kingship, it's sovereignty, it's power, it's acceptance of all the emotions and bringing them home to the self. It is direction, focus, self-mastery, presence, fun, joyfulness, playfulness, all of the above. Yeah. An amalgamation of different energies with presence, focus, and direction.
Beautifully said. What would you say to someone, and I've had this conversation a few times with women that are like, this is bullshit because women are all those things too.
The deeper I get on my own path, I see the men doing men's work and I see the women doing women's work. And I think it's really important to have these places where we can go for our own process and maybe be with men if we've, I can talk from my own experience. I was terrified of men for many years. So that's a really important part of the process, but also the coming back together, the union between the Shiva, the Shakti, the masculine, the feminine, the yin, the yang, seeing that we have the masculine and the feminine inside of us and realizing that we're human beings, ultimately for me is probably the greater journey along my own path. So yes, women have all those qualities and men have all those qualities, and may they all come into fruition and be seen. But yeah, I understand that question gets put to me often. Especially when I was doing mixed circles. I was a period where I was holding mixed circles, and that was really interesting to see the different polarities being expressed through man or woman, and then the different energies. So
I think there's a misunderstanding or a confusion with certain terminology, which really gets people, in a lot of cases, they get really offended by something which I think if it was broken down, it might be far more easily digestible. For instance, man and woman is the biological construct of a human.
yes.
Male and female is the spectrum of gender. Masculine, feminine is the energetics within each. And now people are saying you're a bigot if you say that a man can't have a child. It's like, well, is that correct? Like women can have babies. Maybe a male can have a baby. But to go out and say, no, men can have children, men can get pregnant. I think this is where it gets skewed because people are just taking all of these separate definitions and kind of muddling them up. It's a controversial topic.
It is a controversial topic. I feel to a degree, it's interesting because a lot of the work I do is with the archetypes, as I know you do yourself. And it's my partner's holding a series of women's circles at the moment, and she's come to me and she said, look, can you teach me about the masculine archetypes? I want to apply these to the women in my female women's circle, and the shadows can just move over. They're there. King becomes queen. The lover can remain the same. the warrior can become the warrioress, and the magician can become the witch, and all those shadows still play out in the human being rather than the masculine or the feminine. So these are just energies that we can apply. I think sometimes it's good to have certain names and structures which to a degree do put us in certain boxes, but I don't want those boxes to be rigid. You know, it helps us. It helped me, especially early on in my path. You know, if it was so ever changing, I wouldn't have known to show up at a men's group. I needed to know that I wanted to go and do men's work, whatever that heading is or whatever that wording is. It doesn't really matter for me. It helps early on, but really it's, like I say, these energies that we can use. She can use the archetypes in the women's circle. We can bring them into the men's circle. It's a methodology or a modality that works. It may not work for them. They may try something else, but it's a beautiful roadmap for us to work with the shadow if we want to.
Exactly. And what was the catalyst, or was there an experience, or was there something that happened that actually got you onto this path?
Yeah, so I was 20, I'm 34 now, I was 27 years old, and I was ticking off all the kind of bits in life that I thought I needed to do. Successful job, you know, pretty girlfriend, flat in London, had a very good wage, and I was miserable. I was really, really, really miserable. And I was working in the States and London, and kind of, I hate to say, it was like there was an arrogance there. There was an egotism there. This I can conquer anything. Very much the kind of naive hero, kind of do it yourself, adolescent kind of belief structure in place. And I wanted to drive over everything to achieve. I wanted to, you know, force my way to success, but not ask for any help along the way. And it culminated, I ended up having a stroke at 27, which is very young to have a stroke. Wow. It was a TIA, so it was one that didn't clot. I was staying at the Hudson Hotel just opposite Central Park, and I went to my room, and the left-hand side of my body just broke down, couldn't feel it. Immediately reached for the phone, kind of half muffled the words 911, and went to Mount Sinai Hospital, and that's where the change happened. I went into depression. I was suffering greatly with my mental and spiritual well-being, and I tried to take my own life following returning back to England. And that sent me on the roller coaster of what I would say my spiritual path from there on in, which was a culmination of kind of spiritual seeking in all of the usual forms, from yoga to meditation to Vipassana, Reiki, ayahuasca, rebirthing, holotropic breath work. You know, I haven't done Cambo actually. That's the one thing interestingly that was off the list. But I went down lots of different avenues, and I think early on in my journey I realized that I was spiritually bypassing a lot, and what led me to men's work was it was working through the psychological trauma of my childhood and the very much needed patterns of my ego that I was bypassing through the kind of looking for the spiritual oneness. So after many years of seeking in Thailand and India and Bali and all of the other kind of usual places, I decided to ground myself fully back at home.
Solid hero's journey right there.
Right, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Lots of refusal of the calls, but I eventually got there.
Powerful story, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
If you had a 12-year-old son, what's the most significant thing you'd want to share with him?
Self-love. I always, whenever I'm coaching men, I always ask them, where's their king at, and where's the self-love and compassion today? I agree with focus. I agree with direction. I agree with these so-called masculine traits of purpose and stepping up into your power and your sovereignty, of course. But ultimately, can I be compassionate and loving to myself no matter how I show up on any given day? Because that to me is where the integration of the shadow happens. That to me is where we can look all these parts of ourselves that we may have tried to cut off or disown and say, do you know what? You're welcome here. And I can compassionately and lovingly sit with myself. So I would like, hopefully through him seeing how I treat myself, my own body, this physical vehicle, for him to see that and to respond to that and to follow in such footsteps and realize that all of him is welcome on any given day. And enough. He's done his, like, your best is enough.
Beautiful. What's an uncomfortable truth about you?
An uncomfortable truth. I don't know off the top of my head. An uncomfortable truth.
What's something you don't want me to know?
It's not that I don't want you to know. In the early part of my journey, I was really, I didn't want people to know I was a tyrant, even though it leaked, out. And, I think there's a real misconception with shadow work that, once we own the shadow, it's gone. and it's like, no, this is an energy that lives. It's a fragrance and a frequency that lives within us, based on our patterns and our trauma. And it's a part that will always be there. But again, can I integrate him? And can I love him? And can I see that tyrant is born from a place of insecurity and fear in the world? And the minute that I can find that root cause, it disempowers him. So yeah, that I have been a tyrant and that he lives within me.
When was the last time you were out of integrity?
I said I'd call a friend. I said I'd get a reply to a friend back yesterday, and I did it today. But I'm kind to myself with something like that. Yeah, that's when the last time I was out of integrity.
When was the last time you cried in front of someone else?
Oh, I cried in front of my partner at the weekend. I cried in front of a group of men the week before. All the time. I'm not afraid to show those golden tears. Not at all.
No, it's a beautiful process to be able to have. And on this path, I meet a lot of men, in their 40s, and I haven't cried since I was a kid. And the weight that must hold is incredible.
I like to look at it like an egg that holds our emotional capacity. And if we don't have a tap to release some of the pressure of that egg, cracks start to form, and then those cracks create leakages, and those leakages go all over the place onto our family, our friends, relationships, whoever. And so that tap can represent crying, that tap can represent dancing, expressing, punching a pillow, working out, whatever I need to do to process maturely my emotions that are coming up for me, and to not leak them, to not let my egg crack on the rest of the world, and then me sit there and play the victim as I've caused a lot of suffering. So to witness men cry and share their vulnerability. This is the Unmasked Man's, tagline is courage. Vulnerability is courage. It's at the heart of what I believe authentic men's work's about. And for men to realize that it's safe to be emotionally open, once you see it for the first time, that they're safe, or that they can be safely expressed in front of men, it's such a powerful vision to witness that. You see the cracking and the outpouring, and it's golden.
It reminds me of this one men's circle, and one of the brothers that would come was a bit older, and the very first time he turned up, he bought a 6-pack of beer, and it's like, this is the wrong circle for that, mate. And he came maybe 5 or 6 times, and every time he'd just sit there quietly. He wouldn't share. He'd just take it in. He'd listen. And there's this one circle where there's about 13 of us, and one of the guys started to cry, and then finished his story. Then the next guy gets emotional. And 5 guys in a row all just kind of let it come out. And then it gets to this guy that brought the beers the first time, and I kind of just imagined that he was going to pass again, and I checked in with him, and he's like, no, I want to share. And he shares something, I mean, to many people, they wouldn't think it to be that vulnerable or that edgy or whatever, but it was such a weight on this guy. And as soon as he started to share, you could feel and you could hear and you could see the emotion starting to crack, and the tears started to come. And he automatically kind of shut himself off and closed down. But he went from not sharing anything and then witnessing other brothers actually just be okay with being vulnerable and crying to the point where he was able to do that himself.
Beautiful.
And that, man, it's such medicine. It's so beautiful.
I always say, like, when a man brings that, when a man arrives in a circle and he just brings himself so authentically and sincerely, he's given such a gift to the other men, because he doesn't realize the level of depth that he's now taken that circle to by just bringing all of himself straight away. And you just go from here to here, and it's just like so powerful. Just creates a totally different space, as you know. So yeah, if any man's out there that's ever doubted his own sharing of vulnerability, please, I encourage you to feel into your heart and to allow those tears to be expressed.
And I mean, it's, as all men can attest, it's a difficult thing in a society that, as you grow up, it's like, don't cry, don't be a pussy, don't be a girl. So suddenly it's like, all right, I got to hold this because I'll appear less masculine. Like, fuck, mate, no,
I know,
that is so not true.
I know.
So vulnerability is courage is it's a really sweet tagline.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's I think it sums up. We're definitely the Unmasked Man. You know, we have we have accountability, we have integrity, we have the self-discipline and the self-mastery and all the bits that men look for in men's work. But one thing I always try to really bring to our sessions is heart, you know, and vulnerability, and that's so core. Because I don't want it to become like so rigid, I suppose, so tyrannical that sometimes, you know, I've seen some men's work be very dum, and it's like, where's the heart? And I really, really want the heart to be involved in the work that I do, because it's so important. Because I see so many men with little boys that just their own little boy is screaming out for so much love, and to be reparented and reheld.
What are you most afraid of?
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond imagination. Marianne Williamson is my favorite quote. Do you know what? I was doing some of my psychology and counseling training on Monday, and we had to create a mask. It was a really great exercise. I had to create a mask, a physical one, for the ones that we wear each day. And, you know, I sat there and I expressed, this is kind of funny because I I have a men's movement that I started called the Unmasked Man. So I found that one of the deepest masks that I wear is one of my biggest fears, which is really truly stepping into my power. Still, I am doing it. I'm living it. You know, I'm proud to say that I work with men for a living, but I know I could be doing more. I know, not from a pushy place, but there's still some fears there. You know, certainly with the elder men. I expressed this recently at a men's kind of conference that I went to. I'm scared to bring what I perceive to be maybe new ideas on masculinity and more new age concepts or techniques that we could bring. I don't know how new they are. You know, everything is always borrowed and rehatched, but to bring them to the elders out there and to challenge that and to really be seen and step into that, I think there's still some fear there of kind of being shot down. And it was interesting because the man I spoke to, he turned around and said, if an elder man was to not welcome you in that space and shoot you down, then he hasn't done the work himself. So that was a really great, you know, feedback for me. So yeah, although I empower men every day and I encourage them to step up and reclaim their sovereignty, of course, I am also on that journey as well. And I don't think I'll ever be off that journey. I've never met someone that's you know, said, right, that's me, I'm done now. You know, I think there's always more that we can become and step into our power in that healthy sovereign capacity. So yeah, my deepest fear is my power. Yeah,
I read something the other day that said the moment that you think you are done is the moment you are just beginning.
Boom.
So oof,
yeah. We're always doing the work, and you know that.
Just on that quote, because I remember when I was traveling a few years ago, I was in this community and I wrote it on this kind of community board, I guess you call it. And somebody's read it and he's like, it doesn't make any sense. I was like, in what way? And he's like, well, why is that something to be afraid of? And for me, the fear of that comes in alignment with the amount of work that is required to step into your full power.
Yes.
Because I would love to be in my full power. It'd be fantastic. But I also know what it would take. And there are parts of me that are not yet willing to go, fuck it, okay, let's do it, all in. And that's part of my shadow. That's part of the self-doubt. That's part of the self-worth. That's like all, ticks all the boxes of like, there's this fear of actually doing all of this work. What if I fail? All this kind of stuff. So it's a real fear, man.
It is. And I think it's not just what I've got to do to get there. It's when I get there, let's say if success looked like, getting a book published out there and giving huge seminars and talking and spreading this incredible work of men's work, right? Imagine if that's the big goal. What tests are going to come along the way? Is the ego going to start to kick in? Is the power trip going to start to kick in? I almost envisaged Buddha sat underneath his tree and all these temptations coming. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not just the work needed to really step into this heart-centered leadership, but it's also the other side of that, what success can bring. And I had an incident the other day where for about 10 minutes I thought I was a billionaire on crypto, and I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. By the way, I'm not. It turned out to be like $250, which was hilarious. But it was actually, I was more scared of that amount of money than actually the excitement of it. And that, I think that's a great example. It's just like all the pressures and the responsibilities that such a thing could bring. And I think that's the same as when we really step into our power, what opportunities that could bring, and how we could get misguided potentially along the way. So really always staying in our truth.
Nice insight. What is your deepest desire?
My deepest desire is to reach that full potential, that full power, that I know, again, it's always moving, not in the sense of the achievement trap of like, or the perfectionist of, I'm never going to get there, or I need to do this, I need to do that, but more just my desire is the search for truth. Yeah, to the search for truth, which sounds, very, tick the right box of the spiritual seeker, but every time I can let go of an old story, I free myself. So my deepest desire, although my ego will fight with it, is to discover myself fully, compassionately, and express myself fully and compassionately on this plane, this level, this earth.
So how would you know if you reached your full potential or your most powerful state?
I think anytime when I haven't been living my dharma, I haven't been living my purpose, I've been unhappy, and that egg that I talked about earlier cracks and leaks and starts blaming other people for my lack of what I want to create or bring into the world. I become a victim, and I disempower myself, and I go into the old stories and the old patterns. So I would imagine that is a place that looks very free of all of that victimhood, very free of all those stronger trauma stories from childhood. And I'm, when I talk about it openly like that, I don't feel that far off. I spoke to one of my parents today, and I said, I'm very good. I'm feeling very good. I'm so abundant in my life in so many ways. I'm so blessed. I really can. I wouldn't have been able to put my hand on my heart, 5 years ago and say I love myself unconditionally, and I can do that now. Like, I really believe it in my balls, and convey that message outwardly. So, just I'm. It's difficult to say I'm not that far off, because I know there's still so much to give and to do and to evolve into, and it's my choice, like you said, whether you do it now or you're not quite ready, but I feel like I've come so far, and I am so unbelievably proud of myself of what I have done and the pain that I had to go through to get here, but it was worth it. There's the cure for pain is in the pain, and it was golden, that experience, and I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah, it brings me, that last piece brings me to a question that I often ask people is, if you could take one memory from this life into the next life, like everything gets deleted, but when you're reborn, you're allowed to keep one memory from this life, what would it be? And a lot of people have this, the moment I woke up kind of response. But I'm like, no, like, what's an experience? What's a moment in your life that was so powerful for you And I'll ask you that question. You can answer that question in a second, but this
Mm.
girl's response was the moment I was raped.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa, was not what I was expecting.
Mm.
But she said that was the moment my entire life shifted from who I was to who I'm now becoming.
Mm.
And that punched me in the heart, that response.
Mm.
But what is one memory that you would take?
It's interesting because you said that my brain flashed through all these happy memories, and then it came to a memory of me sat in the attic room of my parents' house because I had to give up my London flat, and I was kind of, my life was in pieces after the stroke, and I was in deep depression. I was in a really bad place. I remember, like, needing help just to get in the bath, kind of thing. Like, really just totally detached from I'd lost everything: money, girlfriend. I was there was in London and New York, there's a lot of cocaine involved, which led to the stroke, and alcohol, and just being sat against my radiator underneath this window, where I kind of looked at my hands differently. And it was the day after I attempted suicide. And I just, yeah, I don't know if that's the moment I woke up, but there was a conscious moment in that moment where I said to myself, fuck, I cannot, like, no one can get me out of the place that I'm in right now other than me. And that was so terrifying, but so liberating at the same time, because there was a little boy inside of me that so desperately wanted this person or that person to make it all better, and it wasn't going to. Then the only person I could rely, come to really to empower myself again was me. And that there was something that switched then, and that within a few months I was up, I was back, I was, I wasn't in a great place still, but I started to put plans in place, and I was being more self-compassionate, and I was seeking, and so I think that was the lowest of my journey. And the fact that I nearly took, I came so close to taking my own life that it could not be what it is now, and that's to see that growth, and to see it was so necessary, because I can help guide and support individuals that have experienced those lows, because I know how they feel. You can only teach from or give from the level of your own heartfelt experience. So very much in that process, I feel like the wounded healer in a good way, and blessed. So that memory would probably be, hopefully, the electric kickstart to transform my new life, if I could, if I woke up in a new life without anything else.
Yeah, I love that. That 100% self-responsibility is such a powerful lesson. That moment of, like, holy shit, nobody's coming to save me.
Right.
Fucking hell.
Ego death, left, right, and center. Fuck. Shit.
Really? Are you sure?
Where's the shaman? Where's the guy dressed in white? Yeah. Yeah, that's a wake-up call. And that still comes, that voice, but it's less, and actually it's kind now. That voice is like it, that voice is basically an opportunity for me to reparent myself in that moment. So I almost internally within my body become my king, and I'm holding myself, holding that little boy. So I'm being the father and the mother for myself. And I often wrap my arms around myself at that point. And if I'm crying, I'm crying, and it's showing up for me.
What is it you're creating?
In terms of the Unmasked Man,
With your life?
I want to create the intention of the Unmasked Man was to kind of hopefully one day have a men's circle in every street corner, to change this. I had a big deep conversation the other day about a man when we said toxic masculinity, but to change something that's not working, let's say that, something that I don't think is working in today's setup of what is happening, of boys initiating boys, of this trauma lineage being passed from generation to generation, from silly stories like we have to man up and we have to literally lock up our throat chakra and just hold on and let our egg just fucking crack everywhere. Like, just the Unmasked Man was created to bring vulnerability, a place, a safe space, to share, to be authentic, to be real, and to be in the heart, to evolve as a man in our heart, and to bring in that compassion, to bring in the kindness, and to bring in the focus and the discipline and all of those. But yeah, to really, really love ourselves along that journey, and hopefully create a world, or certainly a world around me, full of kings. That's the purpose.
Sounds good.
Sounds all right, doesn't it?
Sounds fantastic.
Sounds pretty good. I'll have one of those.
I'll take two.
I'll take two. Yeah, one to go. Yeah, I mean, obviously, men's circles. I'd like books out there, not just written by me, by other men, like a space for collective knowledge, a space to challenge knowledge that's gone before, to reinterpret it to today's vision, trainings, advice, ranging from everything from porn addiction to deeper kind of shadow work and the archetypes, and having a place where the everyday man can also join that discussion, that he may not understand the difference between the Muladhara and the Swadhisthana and all this spiritual lingo, right? But he gets it. He can take something away from the openness and the expression of the space where men meet under our kind of tutorage, and it's accessible. That's what I want. Yes, we can do the deep stuff. We can do deep. I do deep all day long, but also to affect. I actually get, I think, more nourished inside when I see a man that has never, ever experienced any of this work at all. Like we talked about earlier, that guy almost maybe that walks in with a 6-pack of beers, and you give him something, and it's such a gift. I get so nourished at those moments than sometimes doing really, really deep carpet work or trauma work or shadow work, because it's so enlightening for them. The path that moment is going to lead them on from there on in, and that to me is golden.
Yeah, I had the privilege of going to the Sacred Sons Convergence when I was just in America. Beautiful. 333 men.
Wow.
And I would say the vast majority had never done any of this kind of work.
That's what we need.
Oh man, there were so many moments where you'd just be looking at a guy going through his experience and you're like, his life is never going to be the same.
Yes.
Like this is step one of a 1,000,000-step journey, but this is it. And that brothers is on board.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful.
That's amazing. And may I add, I absolutely love what Sacred Sons are doing. They're doing absolutely beautiful work in the world. I think what's lovely about seeing those moments is, even if they don't necessarily come back the next week or the next 6 months or the next year, there's a seed that's been planted. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know that there's a space out there for men to feel safe and express themselves, and you've experienced it, and then you go back to this kind of very, very unhealthy socializing that we have in the majority. I am generalizing, which I don't like to do, but in the majority of the world, he will, something, doubt will kick in. Am I actually in the wrong space? The space that's 90% of my life? Am I actually, is there a space that I can be safe and that I can be seen and that I can express myself? Yes, there is. You're welcome. Please come. All of you is welcome.
What would you love for men to know with every fiber of their being?
That there's a king that lives within them, and that he never actually he's always been there. They didn't know where to find him. So many men, the process that I do with the men that I work with on the one-to-one coaching programs is basically discovering their king. And the change, we don't actually get to the king till about week 6, 7, or 8, depends on the man, and we go through all the past and the processes, and then we finally see who's been sat on that throne, and they realize that there's another part of themselves that can shine and can step up, and that was always there. And it was this king energy. And suddenly when they connect with that, and then we start tuning in every week after that and asking them, where's your king? How's your king? They're transformed, because it's like they found the north point on their compass again. And it was always there, but they were just spinning around, maybe I'll go over here and let the lover sit in the throne, or the magician, or the warrior, and they're wondering why their life is, in a bit of a haze. So if you can give them that north point, I believe that they can do the rest. And actually you don't give them that north point. You help them find the way to it. That's all we're doing. You and I, because I know the work that you do. We're just facilitating a safe, nurturing space. This is personal centered psychology. This is Carl Rogers, creating an environment for them to find it.
I just want to go back 1 second to that piece of all of you is welcome. And that's actually one of the taglines that they were sharing as Sacred Sons. All of you are welcome, and all of you is welcome. And we were chanting this, 330 plus men in a circle. And Adam in the middle would be like, all of you are welcome, and all of you is welcome. And mate, just to let that land the first time I heard it, I was like, that is such a beautiful saying.
Yeah, man, we say it a lot, and I don't know if you guys say it a lot, but certainly in the UK, and I know all the MKP guys, and over here we've got Men's Fest and Journeyman and a Band of Brothers, and some really beautiful work as well. And yeah, all of you is welcome. Your gold, your shadow, all of it.
Amazing, brother. Where can people find more of you?
People can find more of me and more of us at www.theunmaskedman.co.uk. And you can find me personally on Instagram at Alexander _Cottle, COTTLE, and _Unmasked Man on Instagram as well. And you can see what courses we've got coming up, what men's circles we have, programs, and we've got some cool stuff coming out in January 2022. So I'm going to have a little bit of a holiday between now and then, and create some cool stuff. But yeah, thank you for this opportunity to share this important work.
Amazing, man. It's a beautiful conversation. Thank you for being part of it. As I said, lovely to finally connect with you, and I look forward to potentially working with you at some point in the future.
Blessings, bro. It'll be an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, man.
Thank you, Nic. Take care, man.